Hey y'all, this is Pat, the artist behind Freestyle Fine Art. Today we are going to be talking about brushes. Just going to be kind of going over some brushes that are easy to find. We do have two of the fancy professional grade brushes here with us today. One of them is a synthetic squirrel brush. One of them is a hybrid that has both synthetic and actual squirrel hair in it. Um, but yeah, we're just gonna kind of go over some brushes, some of the different things that they do. We are going to be looking at only round brushes today, specifically watercolor round brushes, because they are kind of your workhorse brush. They do pretty much everything for the most part. You can go in, and load and have the brush and then go on by the side like that, and do these like big, luscious washes. You can put it on its end and do like really fine detail work. You can do all sorts of fun stuff. Fun fact, this is my first watercolor brush I ever got. Take care of your brushes. They will last you a lifetime. This is also one of the cheapest ones we're going to be looking at today. And like, look at that. Still has a pretty decent point considering how old this brush is. I want to say 6 years, 7 years old. That's how long I've been paying. Something like that. But yeah. So yeah, this is what we're going to be working with today. We are actually starting off with this Royal and Lang nickel brush. We are using, or today I'm using my Lucas 1862 palette. We're going to be using the Prussian blue, which I love this color. Such a pretty color. The first thing we are looking at is how much, like the maximum amount of water that it holds. And we're just going to see, how big of a space this can take up. I'm using the Fabriano Studio watercolor cold pressed paper. It's a 25% cotton paper. This is kind of my go-to paper for just kind of messing around, swatching stuff out, testing ideas. It's a good paper. Yeah, it's also relatively cheap. So a little bit about this brush is it is a aquarelle handle, meaning it's a plastic handle, which is great because if you're one of the people that leaves your brushes in the water, which you're not supposed to do because it'll ruin the tip, this is also about an entire brush load for this brush, which is a lot for a synthetic hair brush. Like that's, 2 by 4 inch area. Like, not too bad. So yeah, this is the size 10. We're all going to be working with around the size 10. This Mimic by Creative Mark brush is a size 12, but it's roughly the same size. And then I have a random craft brush from one of those giant packs you can buy at big box stores. This one's Artist Loft, which means I got it from Michaels. But this brush, the Royal Lang Nickel, runs for $2.49 online. Now we're just going to be testing the fine line capability of it. But one of the things I love about this brush is the little beveled edge that it has here, which is great because you can scrape in details with it, or you can actually scrape out highlights if you, don't if you don't, preserve your highlights, or you need to like scrape out the highlight of an eye or what have you. It's actually really, really useful. You can use a credit card scraper. Oh, I'm just flinging paint all over the place today. You can use a credit card scraper, which I actually got that idea originally from Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter. If you don't subscribe to her, do it. She's fantastic. Lots and lots and lots of awesome information. So now we're just going to do dry brush. But yeah, so it's actually really useful to just have this on the back of your brush. Not everyone brings a credit card scraper. So this brush is over here. Now we're going to do Simply Simmons number 10 Multimedia brush. This is the really light golden tack-long, kind of dark bits at the end. It does hold a very nice point. Like, razor, stab, stab, stab. Yeah, real nice point. I actually really like this brush a lot. I'm a fan of the Robert Simmons brushes in particular. They make great acrylic brushes for dirt cheap. They also make pretty decent multimedia brushes, quote unquote. This is a watercolor brush. Like, let's be honest. If memory serves, doesn't hold the most amount of water. Like, Royal and Langnickel definitely has this brush beat out. Like, we're getting into dry brush territory here. So yeah, definitely Royal and Langnickel has more. This brush retails for $2.89 on various online retailers. So now we're going to do our fine line test. I'm putting my brush perpendicular to the table. I'm making a right angle between the brush and the table, just so you get the finest line possible. This is one thing I love about this brush. It's just how fine that line gets. Like, look at that compared. Those two. Like, mind you, this brush, the Royal and Langnickel brush, is also really, really old. So the tip's probably worn out a little bit, but I wanted to show you what it looked like, you know, used. Because, you know, all products are going to start off relatively nice and fancy and all that as soon as you get them, but they will, you know, taper off in quality and such. It wasn't dry enough. But they will taper off in quality as you use them. And I just wanted to show you what that kind of looks like. So yeah, this is Simmons brush, good solid brush. Both of these are commonly found at your big box stores. I know Michaels carries them. They're both technically in the acrylic side of the painting aisle, but I find that they work better with watercolor. You can also water down your acrylics and treat them like watercolor, but it's a whole different video. And here we have the Princeton Snap size 10 round. This is a fantastic brush. I think, no, this isn't the one I got in that kit. But you can buy these online in little 3-pack kits that come with a big round, a small round, and an angle brush. I generally prefer angle brushes over flats. I find that they're more versatile. This is also just kind of a fantastic brush. Princeton is a really good company. Been around forever. They're actually one of the companies that have been around forever, but actually do new stuff on a fairly regular basis, just like Robert Simmons, who makes the Simply Simmons brushes. This is not. Ooh, that's barely better than the Simply Simmons brush. So now we're going to do the tip test. Look at that. That is a nice little tip. Just the tip. Do some really awesome detailing with this brush, which is actually one of the reasons I like it. I actually have one of these size 20 brushes from this line that I use a lot, especially with my student grade paints. Like this one gets to a really nice fine tip as well. Actually, I think that's a finer tip than the smaller brush. But yeah, so one of the reasons why I actually still have and continue to use so many different kinds of brushes and qualities of brushes is because depending on the paint that you're using will depend on the brush you want to use. If you're using a student grade paint, you're going to want to use a student grade brush just because the filaments are generally going to be a little firmer, which means it can actually brush out the pigment a little bit better from the palette or the pan, or even if you're using wet paints. That's just, you know, a good thing to have on hand. Like, I honestly use these brushes with some of my pro grade paints. I'm going for like really, really deep or dark applications. And this brush retails for $4.75 online for these Princeton Snap size 10. Next is probably my favorite line. It's the Mimic Squirrel by Creative Mark. Jerry's Artorama has these. It's actually where I got my set of them. They hold a lot of water. They also disperse the pigment really evenly, which is something that I like. And they're, act just like a squirrel brush, but you're not supporting the fur trade industry by buying them. Honestly, I'm actually kind of surprised how much water this brush held, the Royal and Lane Nickel. Anyways, so yeah, these are good brushes. This is just purely a cosmetic thing that doesn't affect the painting style at all, but I love the way the wood looks. They kind of go on it with a gray stain, and I really, really enjoy that. I do have like a full set of these brushes that I use pretty much constantly. And this brush runs for $6.39 at Jerry's Arorama. They do often run deals on it. Now we're just going to do the line test. That wasn't the finest line I can get. Get finer. Yeah, see, so not horrible. I'm just going to pull out the brush. This brush doesn't do the best for dry brushing, but that's because it is a really juicy, thirsty brush. And by far the most juiciest brush is my silver black velvet. This is a size 10. It's like real juicy. I love it. It's a real nice fine point. It's not the best at pulling pigment out of the well or the pan because it's floppy. It's squirrel. There's a lot of squirrel hair in this, which is one thing to keep in mind. If you do not want to support the fur trade, probably shouldn't buy this brush new. I was actually gifted a few of these brushes used by a friend of mine, which is why I was okay with using them. They are probably my favorite brushes to use whenever I'm doing pretty much anything. This is actually what I call my sketching brush. Like, look at this. One load of water goes this far. These things go for days. Like, that's when it started to get dry brushy. This thing holds a lot of water. So I am going to steal a little bit of the random craft brush section, just because I wasn't anticipating this brush to hold this much water. Like, look at that point, yo. It is pointy. Really great fine lines. Probably the finest, next would be Simply Simmons, then the Princeton Snap. Oh, one thing to keep in mind, these brushes do not like to release pigment whenever you're washing them. You like have to really swish it to, get it to release all the pigment and have a clean brush. They also aren't the best at dry brushing for that exact reason. But, definitely a good brush to have in your toolkit. Now we have what most people start off with, random craft brushes. This is just the basic artist Loft. Like, see how much pigment that pulled out? This thing is honestly probably not going to go very far. I don't even know why I still have this brush, but I'm happy I do now because now I can review it. One thing I will say about newer watercolorists is that oftentimes your paintings will look washed out, and you won't necessarily know why. Oftentimes it's because you're using a brush like the Silver Black Velvet or the Mimic Kolinsky, or the Mimic. This is a Mimic Squirrel. They also have a Kolinsky that I haven't tried yet. Anyways, you'll be using that brush with a student grade paint like the Sakura Koi or Prang or Winsor Newton Cotman, and you need a stiffer brush to pull all the pigment out of the well. Oh, it's actually a fine line. What do you know? So that one way you can often mitigate that is by using this more, student grade brush with your student grade paint will often create the effects that you're looking for. Some good dry brushing. Not horrible. It's actually a kind of cool grass effect. Kind of like that. See? Maybe that'd be good for like far off field, even some trees or something, or adding shadows to some kind of rock or something. But yeah, so that's what I got for you. Overall, oh, and the random craft brush, I think I got this in a set of like 20 different brushes for $5 at Michael's. And the price on Silver Black Velvet is $11.18. But this brush, honestly, will probably last you 30 years if you take decent care of your brushes, which most people do. So like watercolor brushes are an investment, but they're a good investment that will last. So overall, my suggestion for someone who is brand new, who knows nothing about painting or so on and so forth, I would probably start off with the Royal Langnickel line of brushes. Their flats aren't the best. Honestly, I prefer the Princeton Snap flats, but that's a different video. And mind you, the Royal Langnickel size 10 runs for $2.49. You could honestly, I've done entire paintings with this one brush. My dream brush is a giant, juicy round. Like here, I'll show you my most used brush ever. So size 26 Mimic Squirrel brush. I use this thing, like I can do entire paintings with this brush and be happy. Like it's a real nice fine point. It, you know, holds a lot of water. I can do fine detail. I can do big washes with it. It's fantastic. So yeah, then if you want to, you know, spend a little extra money for a slightly higher quality brush that will probably last you a lot longer than the Royal and Langnickel one. Mind you, this brush used to have bristles like this. It used to be all nice and gold and pretty and fantastic. But, you know, as you use it, especially with the Prussian blue, the phthalos, the PR 176, all of that will stain the bristles. It doesn't affect how the color mixes as long as you make sure you completely clean your brush out before you put it away. That's always just kind of good practice. But yeah, so next line of brushes, if you want to spend a little more money, would probably be the Mimic Squirrel, which is this one right here. It's a good solid brush, works really well. If you know you're gonna love watercolor, or if you already have a good amount of experience with it and you love it, get the Black Velvet brushes. You're not gonna regret it, honestly. Silver Brush Company, which is who makes these, is a fantastic company. I actually use their acrylic brushes for my acrylic painting a lot, and I've never been disappointed with anything they've ever put out. But yeah, that's all we got for today. Thank you for stopping by and making it this far through my video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If there are any other brushes you'd like me to take a look at or anything like that, please leave it down below in the comments. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.